G'day, and welcome to the AOS Coach sneak peek into the 2022 Ogor Mawtribes Battletome. It's time to feed, ladies and gentlemen, because in this video, I'm going to empty the Mawpot and spill the allegiance abilities, ways to customize your force with enhancements, those key warscroll changes, and the points. Games Workshop did send me this book in advance at no cost, but they will have no involvement in the creation of this video. You'll also find in this book a heap of art, narrative gem, path to glory rules, as well as that unique code for you to unlock your rules in the AOS app. Now let's start at the allegiance level, and your favorite Mawtribes are still around, but there are a couple of tweaks that we'll discuss a little bit later. You've still got your 6 sub-factions like Meat Fist, Blood Gullet, Underguts, Boulderhead, Thunderbellies, and Winterbite. You've still got Might Makes Right, and for the purpose of contesting objectives, your friendly Ogor Mawtribe models will count as 2 models when contesting the objectives. If they're a hero that's not a monster, they'll count as 5, but if they are a monster, they'll count as 10. No changes there. You've kept Ravenous Brutes, and if you're not familiar with the rule, it's about being either hungry or being eating. Now, if your Ogor Mawtribes unit is more than 3 inches away from all enemy units, it is deemed being hungry. However, if it's within 3 inches of an enemy unit, it is deemed as eating. You get to add 2 inches to the movement characteristic of a unit that is hungry, or if they're eating, you get to add 2 to the bravery characteristic while it's eating. This is a simple but effective set of rules because either your unit is going to be getting +2 to its movement characteristic to help them get into the fight or onto an objective earlier, or they're going to get +2 to their bravery, so you don't have to worry as much about battle shock. You've still got Trampling Charge to do mortal wounds on the charge, and the way it works is after a friendly Ogre or a Rhinox unit makes a charge move, you get to pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of that unit and roll the number of dice equal to the unmodified charge roll for that charge move. Now, on a 6+, you get to do 1 mortal wound to the unit. Now, if you are charging with an Ogre unit with 3 or more models, that goes from 6 to 5, and if you're charging with a monster, that's going from 6 to 4s. Say your Frostlord on Stonehorn rolls a 9-inch charge, that would be 9 dice doing mortal wounds on a 4+. Charge that Stonehorn into an enemy monster and bracket the profile before the combat even starts, or charge it into a high armored save elite unit and do some extra mortal wounds between the Trampling Charge and Stomp Monstrous Rampage. Gulping Bite has moved off the melee profile of your Gutbusters and is now an ability. And the way it works is at the end of the combat phase, you get to roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of a friendly Gutbuster Ogre unit. And on a 4+, that unit's going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. The final set of allegiance abilities to be brought over from the old book is the Grasp of the Everwinter. At the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of any friendly Beastclaw Raiders unit. If the roll is equal to or less than the number of the current battle round, that unit's going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. Now, it's unlikely this is going to do a heap of damage in the early game. However, as the game progresses and things get a little bit frostier, this could be the difference maker on killing a unit that might be holding the objective, or might be those 1 or 2 cheeky mortal wounds to pull down that minor hero. Finally, you have a new set of rules called the Beasts of Winter, and this is a new set of monstrous rampages available for your Stonehorns and your Thundertusk. There's 1 for each of them. Now, traditionally, you know how monstrous rampages work. You can issue them, raw, stomp, blah, blah, blah. But instead, a friendly Beastclaw Raider monster unit can carry out one of the following. Unstoppable Charge is for Stonehorn units that have made a charge move in the same phase as when they carry out the monstrous rampage. If they do so, that unit can make a 3d6 move and it can pass over enemy units the same way as if it could fly. It must finish its move within 3 inches of any enemy units. At the end of the move, you get to roll a dice for each unit that it's passed across, and on a 2+, it's going to deal D3 mortal wounds. If you carry out Chill of the Everwinter, you get to roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of that Thundertusk. On a 3+, the Strike Last effects applies to that unit until the end of the following combat phase. While I do love both of these, that unstoppable charge for that Stonehorn is insanely scary with the average of a 10-inch move on a 3d6 after you've landed that charge. So that allows you to jump the enemy trash screens and hit their squishy center, maybe get into a key piece they've been trying to protect. You do have a large base, so positioning and planning where that move's going to be is going to be very critical for you. Looking into the ways to customize your force, there are 9 command traits to choose from. Your Gutbuster heroes have 5 options. Reluctant Rabble Rouser means you don't have to take battle shock tests for friendly Noblar units that are wholly within 18 inches of your general. The Gastromancer is for butchers only, and this general is going to know the spells of all of the lore of the gut magic, in addition to any spells that it already knows. Deadly Aim is for your Bloodpelt Hunter, the new hero, and that is going to change the hit characteristic of the unit's missile weapons to 2 instead of a 4+. Killer Reputation is for Tyrants only, and before you set up the general for the first time, you can pick an additional big names for them, although you can't duplicate your first choice with your second choice. They've got to be 2 different ones. Ex-Mercenary can be chosen for any of your Gutbuster heroes, and if you select it, friendly Man-Eater units are going to have the battle line battlefield role. In addition, at the start of your hero phase, if your general is on the battlefield, you get to roll a dice for each friendly Man-Eater's unit that is eating. For every 3+, you get to receive 1 extra command point, but it has to be spent on Man-Eater units. You have 4 command traits to choose from on the Beastclaw Raiders side. Voice of the Avalanche lets your general issue command traits to friendly units on the battlefield instead of being wholly within 18 inches, as well as once per battle the general can issue a command without a command point being spent. Beastmaster is for Stonehorn heroes or Thundertusk heroes only. Once per battle, when the general is picked to fight, it can say that it'll dig its heels, and if it does so until the end of that phase, it can use the top row of the general damage table, regardless of how many wounds that it's suffered. Touched by the Everwinter gives your general the priest keyword, and if it's already a priest, it's going to get to know all of the prayers from the Everwinter prayer scripture, in addition to any of the ones that it already knows. Finally, you have the Skull Packmaster, and that is for Icebrow Hunters only. When you use the general's Master of Ambush ability, it's going to allow you to put 3 Frostsaber units in reserve instead of 1. Of the command choices, I'm initially drawn to either the Gastromancer to give my Butcher full access to the gut magic spell lore for a bit more flexibility throughout the game. Deadly Aim is going to be solid if I want to make my general the Bloodpelt Hunter, but that's a big if. Finally, the Voice of the Avalanche or even Beastmaster would be my favorites in the Beastclaw Raider side. Beastmaster is going to be helpful later in the game to help maximize the offense, while Voice of the Avalanche can be helpful depending on how I'm building my lists and if my other unit selections can issue their own commands. There are also 8 artifacts with 4 on each side of the book, but many of them are keyworded to specific heroes. Gutbuster heroes have 4 artifacts to choose from: the Gruesome Trophy Rack, Flask of the Stonehorn Blood, Splatter Cleaver, and the Fang of Gur. Gruesome Trophy Rack adds +1 to the hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Gutbuster units that are wholly within 12 inches of the bearer, as long as they target a monster or a hero. Flask of Stonehorn Blood, once per battle at the start of a phase, you can say that the bearer is going to drink the potion, and if you do so, it'll have a ward of 3 up until the end of that phase. Splatter Cleaver allows you to pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, and at the end of the combat phase, if there are any wounds caused by an attack made by that weapon in that phase, you can heal D3 wounds allocated to each friendly ogre's unit that's wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. You do have to roll separately on those D3 wounds. Finally, the Fang of Gur is for Tyrants only, and that'll turn the Beast Skewer Glaive into a rend characteristic of -3 instead of its rend -1. Your Beastclaw Raider heroes have 4 artifacts to choose from. You have the Elixir of the Frostworm, the Frost Talon Shard Bolts, Carvolok's Flank, and the Seed of Alvagar. The Elixir of Frostworm, once per battle in the shooting phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 6 inches of the bearer and roll a dice. On a 2-up, it'll suffer D6 mortal wounds. The Frost Talon Shard Bolts is for Icebrow Hunters only, and if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by the Hunter crossbow is a 6, that attack will cause D3 mortal wounds in addition to any damage it inflicts. Kowalyk flank gives Yeti units that are wholly within 12 inches of the bearer at the start of the movement phase an extra 2 inches when they make a move during that phase. And the Seed of Alvigar is for Stonehorn heroes or Thundertusk heroes only, and once per battle in the charge phase you can carry out a second monstrous rampage with the bearer. The second monstrous rampage cannot be a rampage that has already been carried out in this phase. Of the artifact choices, I'm initially drawn to the gruesome trophy rack to help boost up those gutbusters either in melee or in shooting. And on the Beastclaw Raider side, it's either the Elixir of the Frostworm to help me pull down a supporting hero with a bunch of mortal wounds, or the Seed of Alvigar to throw down that second monstrous rampage. So perhaps it's a combination of the faction one and then Titanic Duel, Roar or Stomp, or obviously you could do 2 of the generic ones, whatever. There are also 3 mount traits for your Stonehorns and 3 for your Thundertusk. With your Stonehorn, you've got Metal Cruncher, Belligerent Charge, and the Rockmane Elder. Metal Cruncher at the start of the combat phase lets you pick one enemy war machine that's within 3 inches, or a unit that has a save of 3, 2, or 1 that's within 3 inches. That's going to suffer D6 mortal wounds. Belligerent Charger is going to guarantee yourself at least 7 dice for the purpose of trampling charge. And the Rockmane Elder is going to subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target this unit. When it comes to your Thundertusk, you've got the Flesh Greed, the Rhymefrost Hide, and the Matriarch. Flesh Greed at the start of the hero phase, if this unit is eating, you're going to heal D3 wounds. The Rhymefrost Hide is going to give your Thundertusk hero a 5-up ward. And the Matriarch is going to add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Thundertusk units that are wholly within 12 inches of this hero. When it comes to your spell and your prayer laws, you have 7 spells to choose from and 3 prayers to choose from. Now, this is not story time with Coach, so I'm not going to read out every single one, maybe just a couple of my favorites. If you're running your Gutbusters, it's hard to go past Blood Feast, which is a casting value of 7 and a range 18. And if successfully cast, you get to pick 1 Ogre unit that's not a monster and add 1 to the attack characteristics of its melee weapon until the start of your next hero phase. Alternatively, with your Beastclaw Raiders, Molten Entrails is probably my favorite spell with a casting value of 6 and a range 18. And if successfully cast, you get to pick 1 friendly Ogor Mawtribes monster unit that's going to be in range invisible. And until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons used by that monster's mount. With your fire bellies, you've got the Fiery Whirlwind, the Billowing Ash, and the Tongues of Flames. My favorite one probably would be the Fiery Whirlwind, which is a casting value of 6 and a range of 12. If successfully cast, you get to pick 1 enemy unit and roll a dice for each model in the unit that's within range and visible to the caster. And for every 4+, it's going to do 1 mortal wound. If the model only has 1 model, then you get to roll 3 dice instead of 1. So it's a couple of mortal wounds, especially if you happen to go up against a horde. But even if you don't go up against a horde, it's still a couple of good mortal wounds. Alternatively, Billowing Ash will make your Fire Belly a bit of a debuff wagon with a casting value of 6, a range of 12, and if successfully cast until your next hero phase, the enemy is going to subtract 1 from hit rolls that target friendly units while they're wholly within that 12-inch bubble of the caster. Finally, you do have your prayer scriptures, and the Beastclaw Raider priests have access to 3. A lot of them are very similar, if not the same as the old book. You've got Pulverizing Hailstorm, Keening Gale, and the Call of Blizzard. Keening Gale is probably one of my favorites with an answer value of 3 and a range of 18. And if successfully chanted, you get to pick 1 monster or a Mournfang pack that's going to be in range and visible to the chanter, and add 3 to the movement characteristic until your next hero phase. If you're looking for a bit more damage, Pulverizing Hailstorm is the prayer for you with an answer value of 3 and a range of 18. And if successfully chanted, you pick a point on the battlefield that's within 18 inches and you roll a dice for each unit that's within 3 inches of that point that you picked. And on a 2-up, that unit's going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. Now, I mentioned previously you've got your 6 sub-factions to choose from, and you will recognize them all from the previous Battletome. Meat Fist is going to add 1 to each roll made for the Trampoline Charge battle trait by friendly Meat Fist Gutbuster units. Blood Gullet is going to give friendly Butchers an extra spell from the Law of Gut Magic. In addition, friendly Blood Gullet Butchers can attempt to cast 1 extra spell in their hero phase. Underguts is going to improve the Ren characteristic of missile weapons by those Undergut Lead Belchers and the Undergut Iron Blasters by 1. Boulder Head is going to give 2 extra wounds to each of your Stonehorns or your Thundertusk units. And in addition, you can pick 3 Stonehorn heroes or Thundertusk heroes to have a different mount trait instead of the 1. Thunderbelly's Mournfang packed units can run and still charge later in that turn, while Winterbite is going to subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons that target friendly Winterbite units that are wholly within your territory. And in addition, friendly Winterbite Frost Sabers, Icebrow Hunters, and the Icefall Yetis are not going to be visible to enemy units if they're outside of 12 inches of the enemy. Now, while there are some good sub-faction rules, there are other considerations like your Battleline Options, and your Ogre Gluttons are always going to be Battleline in Ogor Mawtribes. The Stonehorn Beastriders, the Thundertusk Beastriders, and the Mournfang pack are going to be Battleline if your general is a Beastclaw Raider. Frost Sabers are Battleline if your general is an Icebrow Hunter. Iron Guts and Lead Belchers are Battleline if your general is a Gutbuster. And Icefall Yetis are going to be Battleline if your general is a Thundertusk. Next up is your new grand strategies and your battle tactics, and there are 4 grand strategies to choose from. Ready to Plunder is completed if there are more friendly units wholly within enemy territory than enemy units. Sage of the Monster Hunter is completed if an enemy monster was destroyed by wounds caused by an attack by your general, and your general is not slain. On the Maw Path is completed if you complete 4 or more battle tactics from the Ogor Mawtribes. Enough Grub for All is completed if the Mawpot in your army is full at the end of the game and you've spent it at least once, so you're going to have to refill it. It's not like Tzeentch where you get to do some cheaty grand strategies. You're going to have to spend it and then refill it, and then not spend it again. While there are also 6 battle tactics. Eat Your Fill is completed at the start of the combat phase if every friendly Ogre's unit is eating. Savor the Taste cannot be picked in the first battle round, but it's completed if every friendly Ogre unit is hungry. Avalanche of Flesh is completed if 10 or more mortal wounds were caused by the Trampling Charge battle trait this turn. To score Winter Take Thee, you pick 1 enemy hero or an enemy monster, and you complete it if that enemy unit is destroyed by the wounds caused by the Grasp of the Everwinter battle trait. Let Them Loose is completed if you carry out 4 of the monstrous rampages this turn. And Boil Their Bones lets you pick 1 enemy hero or an enemy monster, and it's completed if that enemy unit is destroyed within 6 inches of an empty Great Mawpot in your army. There are 4 core battalions for you to use in match play. The Yorbad has a mandatory 1 Huskard on Stonehorn, 1 Stonehorn Beastrider, and 2 Mournfang pack, with an optional 1 Frostlord on Stonehorn, 2 more Stonehorn Beastriders, and 2 more Mournfang. And the benefit you're going to get is Swift, which is giving you that free once per game at the double or forward to victory. The Yorbad has the exact same loadout as the Jorbad, except in the benefit is going to be you get Slayer instead of Swift, so that'll give you a all-out attack or an Unleash Hell for free. The Torbad forces you to have at least 1 Huskard on Thundertusk and 1 Thundertusk Beastrider, with an optional 1 Frostlord on Stonehorn. You've also got an option of 2 Thundertusk Beastriders and 3 Icefall Yetis. And the benefit there is going to be Expert, so you can either get a free all-out attack or all-out defense. Finally, you've got Junk Mob that has a mandatory 1 unit of Noblars and 1 Scrap Launcher, with an optional 2 extra units of Noblars and 1 extra Scrap Launcher. And the benefit there is going to be Slayer, so you can either have a free all-out attack or a free Unleash Hell. Finally, you have the Mawpot, and I didn't see a single thing different between the old warscroll and the new warscroll. Now let's dig into all the warscroll changes, and there were a fair amount of changes that happened within the book. Starting off with the Frostlord on Stonehorn, it does have the same move, save, bravery, melee profile, earth-shattering charge, and stone skin. It did see a change in its wounds characteristic. It has gained 2 extra wounds. It's now at 15 wounds base. It also has seen a damage table change. So it used to have 5 tiers on the damage table. It's now down to 4. So it's 0 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 11, and then 12 plus. It did lose the old Bellowing Voice command ability, which was the reroll charges, but it did gain a new ability called Bellowing Charge. not to confuse you. That's going to give you +1 to charge rolls for friendly Beastclaw Raider units that are wholly within 12 inches. It's also gained Frost Spear, and if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made by a Frost Spear targets an enemy hero or an enemy monster, and it's a 6, you subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of that unit's melee profile to a minimum of 1 until the end of that phase. Now, it doesn't stack. A same unit cannot be affected by this ability more than once. I'm super excited by the Huskard on Stonehorn, although it does have the same move, the same save, bravery, earth-shattering charge, and stone skeleton. It has seen a wounds increase of 2 as well, so it's now a base wound of 12. There was some changes in the harpoon launcher. It's now rend 1, and the crushing hooves are now 2 inches. It too has the same damage table of 4 tiers. The Blood Vulture now can affect anyone on the battlefield that's visible. Formerly, it was 30 inches. Now it's just board wide. It did lose the Line Breaker's ability, which was a command ability that you'd issue to, I think, Mournfang. It gained an ability called Reel 'em In. If an attack made by the Chain Trap scores a hit on an enemy monster unit and you don't kill it, after all the attacks are resolved, you get to roll a dice. And on a 4+, that monster is snagged until the start of your next shooting phase. Now, what does this all mean? While a monster unit is snagged, each time it makes a move, it must finish its move at least as close to the unit that snagged it as it was at the start of the move. What excites me the most about the Huskard on Stonehorn is it's gained the Priest keyword, Alleluia. So it's got access to Winter Endurance and the Winter Strength prayers that you're probably already familiar with the Huskard on Thundertusk. Speaking of Winter Endurance and Winter Strength, the prayers look exactly the same as what it used to be, except the prayer answer value has gone from 4 down to 3. And the reason is that it's lost that Blizzard Speaker ability, I think it was, where you used to get +1 to your chanting rolls if you were near another Thundertusk. With the Stonehorn Beast Rider, it too has the same move, save, bravery, earth-shattering charge, and stone skeleton. It too gained 2 extra wounds, so it's now a base profile of 14 wounds. It also has the same change with its harpoon launcher and its crushing hooves. The damage table also is 4 tiers. It gained the exact same Reel 'em In ability that we saw on the Huskard on Stonehorn, and it also has the change to the Blood Vulture, which is the same as the Huskard on Stonehorn. The Frostlord on Thundertusk has the same move, save, bravery, the Frost Wreath Ice, and the Blast of the Frost Wreath Ice. The Numbing Chill, the melee weapons are all the same. It too gained 2 extra wounds, so it's now 15 wounds. It lost the old Bellowing Voice that had a command ability to reroll charges, but it did gain the exact same Bellowing Voice for the +1 to charge on friendly Beastclaw Raiders that are wholly within 12 inches. It too has the Frost Spear I just spoke about with the reducing of the melee weapons down to 1, and it has the same 4 damage tiers, the 0 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 11, and 12+. The Huskard on Thundertusk has the same move, the same save, the Frost Wreath Ice, the Blast of Frost Wreath Ice, the Chain Trap, the Numbing Chill. Both the melee profiles are all the same, and that's also true of the Thundertusk Beast Riders. You have gained 2 extra wounds, so you're now up to a wounds characteristic of 14. You've also gained a point of bravery, so you're now up to bravery of 9. The harpoon launcher is now rend -1. It also has a 4-tier damage table, 0 to 5. We've already gone through this. The Blood Vulture, the Reel 'em In, the Winter's Endurance, the Winter Strength is the same as the Huskard on Stonehorn that we just spoke about. And as previously mentioned, it has lost Blizzard Speaker, which used to give you +1 to your chanting roll if you were near a friendly Thundertusk. But as I also mentioned, the prayer answer value went down from 4. It's now a 3, so it doesn't require synergies with another Thundertusk. The Thundertusk Beast Rider has the same move, save, bravery, again, the Frost Wreath Ice and the Blast of Frost Wreath Ice, the Chain Trap, the Numbing Chill, the melee profiles, all the same. It too gained an extra 2 wounds, so it's now a base of 14 wounds. The Harpoon Launcher and the Blood Vultures is the same as the Huskard on Thundertusk. It too gained the Reel 'em In ability, which we've already spoken about on the Huskard on Thundertusk. The Mantrappers have both the same moves, save, bravery, wounds, master of ambush, bushwhackers, trap, hidden traps, and here you go, boss, all the same. There were a couple of changes in the weapon profile. The trap launcher is now rend -1. The hunting knife is now 2-inch range. The sharp stuff now wounds on a 4, which used to wound on a 5. The assortment of weapons is now 2 attacks each. You've got a hit and a wound roll of 4, so that's gotten a little bit easier as well. Otherwise, the rest of the profiles are the same. There's a language change in the Thrafnir. It's the same ability, but previously you could set up a Frost Saber. Now you must set up a Frost Saber. You've also gained some rules called the Shivering Noblars, and essentially this unit is not considered a Beastclaw Raiders unit for the purpose of the Grasp of the Everwinter battle trait. Your Firebelly has the same move, the same save, the same bravery, the same wounds, and the Bolsalt Hammer. There was a change in the Fire Breath. It is now range 8, formerly 6. The range characteristic is no longer a D3 mortal wounds on a 4-up. Instead, the attack characteristic is equal to the number of models in the target unit to a maximum of 10. You hit on 2s, wound on 3s, no rend for 1 damage. Finally, there was a change in the Cascading Fire Cloak, which is a spell that goes off on a 5, used to be 6, so it's gotten a little bit easier, and it has a range of 3. If successfully cast, you get to roll a dice for each enemy unit that's within range, and on a 4+, it's going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. And in addition, if the spell was successfully cast, your Firebelly is going to get a ward of 5-up until the start of your next hero phase. It used to just give you +1 save. I really like now the 5-up ward. Your Mournfang pack have the same move, the same save, the same wounds, the same Ironlock pistols, the Hornblower, the Standard Bearer, the Iron Fist. There was a change in its bravery. It used to be 6, it's now 7. The Culling Club Prey Hacker melee profile is now range 2 and rend 1. The Gargant Hacker is now rend 2. The Tusks now are damage 2, and the Champion is going to give you +1 melee attack. You did lose the Mournfang charge, which used to give you +1 damage on the Tusks if you charge, but I guess it's now just a flat 2 anyway. Finally, you've gained the Linebreaker's ability, which is subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by missile weapons that target this unit. And in addition, if they are targeted by Unleash Hell, those attacks are only going to wound on an unmodified wound roll of a 6. Now that's hot. It means you're going to charge into some nice little juicy shooting units and significantly reduce the amount of damage coming in. The Icebrow Hunter has the same move, save, bravery, wounds, both missile weapons, and the Master of Ambush all remain unchanged. The Culling Club is now range of 2. It used to be only 1. It did lose the Mighty Throw, which was run and shoot with the spear. It also lost the Icy Breath, which was that 4-up mortal wound missile weapon attack. But it did gain a ability called Lead the Skull. Now, you can use that command ability at the start of your charge phase, and the command can only be issued by this unit and can only be received by Frost Saber unit. Until the end of that phase, when you attempt to charge with the unit, you can change one of the dice rolls to a 4. I guess that makes a minimum of a 5-inch charge. Your Frost Sabers have the same move, the same save, the same bravery, and the same elongated fangs. They've gained an extra wound characteristic, so they're now a base of 3 wounds each. They've gained an ability called Hunters of the Frozen Winds, and I really like this rule actually. The unit is not visible to enemy units while it's in cover. There was a change in their master's voice, and instead of being +3 to their charge rolls and a bravery boost, it's now they don't take battle shock tests if they're wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Icebrow Hunter. Icefall Yetis have the same move, save, bravery, wounds, bounding leaps, which was at 6-inch pile-in. You have a change in your melee profile. It's now range 2. You've also got a change in the Aura of Frost. Now that is a 6-up ward. It used to be a -1 to hit penalty, so now you got a 6-up ward. And there's another change in the Invigorating by the Blizzard Aura. It's now a range of 15. It used to be 16 from friendly Thundertusks. Now you did get a brand new hero, and that is the Bloodpelt Hunter, which has a move of 6, a save of 5, bravery 8, and wounds of 8. It has 2 missile weapon profiles and 1 melee profile. The Skull Shatter crossbow has a range of 18 with 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, rend 1 for D3 damage, while the Impaling Spear has a 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wound on 2s, rend 2 for D6. In melee, you have the Hacker Axe and Meat Blade, which has a 2-inch range with 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1 for 2 damage. It does have the Destruction, Ogor Mawtribes, Ogre, Gutbuster Hero, and Bloodpelt Hunter keywords. And there are 3 abilities to call out. Hidden Predators is exactly the same as what we just spoke about with the Frost Sabers, and that is the Bloodpelt Hunter cannot be targeted or is not visible to an enemy while it's in cover. It has this unrelenting Hunter ability that I really like, which is at the end of your opponent's movement phase, if this unit is more than 9 inches from all enemy units, it can make a normal move. And then finally, your Beast Breaker. So if the target is a monster, the damage characteristic of that Skull Shatter crossbow is a 3, and the damage characteristic of the Impaling Spear is a flat 6. So no variability. You target a monster, you're doing flat 3 and flat 6 damage. Now, when it comes to the other side of the book for our Gutbusters, we have the Tyrant first, and that has the same move, the same save, the same bravery, the same wounds, the Ogre Pistol missile weapon, the Beast Skewer glaive ability, the Thunder Mace ability, all the same. There was a change in the Beast Skewer glaive. It's now range 2, used to be 3. The rest of that profile is the same. There were some changes in the big name, so Death Cheater gives the Tyrant a 5-up ward. Brawler Guts now treats the Tyrant as a monster for the purpose of the Trampling Charge battle trait. The Wall Crusher now improves the rend characteristic of the melee weapons by 1 if it's targeting someone who's in cover or in garrison, while the Fate Seeker, the Long Strider, and the Giant Breaker are the same. The final change on the Tyrant is the Bully of the First Degree, and if a friendly Ogor Mawtribes unit fails a Battle Shock test within 3 inches of a friendly unit with this ability, only 1 model's going to flee. The Slaughtermaster has the same move, save, bravery, wounds. It's still a single caster and a single unbind wizard, and the Blood Gruel remains unchanged. The Stuntblade melee profile is now range 2, used to only be 1, and it's rend -1. The rest is the same. There were some changes with the Great Cauldron. If you roll that 1 and get bad meat, it's now only going to cause 1 mortal wound to your Slaughtermaster instead of D3. The Troggoth Guts is the same, and you still do a bunch of healing. Spine Marrow is going to add 1 to your wound rolls for friendly Ogre units that are wholly within 12 inches. It used to only be +1 to hit. I like the +1 to wound. Bone Crusher now deals D3 mortal wounds on a 2-up. It used to be a 4-up to each enemy unit that's within 6 inches of the Slaughtermaster. There were changes in the Rock Chomper. It has the same casting value of 5 and a range of 18, but the rule now is until the start of your next hero phase, rolls made by enemy units within 3 inches of this unit for the purpose of the Gulping Bite battle trait does D6 mortal wounds on a 4-up instead of D3. The Butcher has the same move, the same save, bravery, wounds, single caster, single unbinder wizard, Blood Gruel, and Vicarious Maw, all the same. The only change that I noticed on the Butcher is the Tenderizer and Cleaver both have a range of 2, so it's increased from 1 to 2. The rest is the same. With your Gluttons, it's the same move, save, bravery, wounds. The Crusher Champion and the Iron Fist all remain unchanged. Your Club Blade melee is now a range of 2 and a rend of -1. The rest of that profile is the same. When you have your paired clubs and blades, it lost the ability that used to give you exploding 6s, so for every hit you'd get 2 hits, but instead it gained a new melee profile called paired clubs and blades. So it lost the ability, gained a profile, and that profile is a range of 2, 4 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, rend 1 for 2 damage. So there was a change in Bellower, and that's now +1 to charge. It used to be a -1 to the bravery. The Standard Bearer had a change. The Beast Skulls is now +1 to bravery. So that used to be on the Tribal banner. It's now on the Beast Skull banner. But the Tribal banner now causes -1 to wound with missile weapons. So the Tribal banner used to give you reroll charges. That's gone. The other ability you've lost, actually, is that the Lookout Nobbler, the 6-up ward against shooting, has completely disappeared. Your Iron Guts have the same move, the same save, the same bravery, the same wounds, the same Gut Lord, The Mighty Bashing Weapon is now rend -2, while the rest of the profile remains the same. The Bellower is now +1 to charge as well. It did lose part of the Standard Bearer rules. You still ignore the effects of spells on a 6, but you lost the part where if a enemy unit that is within range of the Standard Bearer fails the Battle Shock test, you used to be able to make an extra D3 models flee. That part's disappeared. You just still ignore the effects of spells on a 6. There was a change with Down with the Iron Guts. It's now once per battle in the combat phase. After this unit has fought for the first time, you can say that it unleashes its ferocity, and if you do so, it can fight for a second time, but when it fights for the second time, it has the Strike Last effect applied. You've gained a new rule called Gut Guard, and before you allocate a wound or a mortal wound to a friendly tyrant, or instead of making a ward roll for a wound or a mortal wound to be allocated to a friendly tyrant, if that friendly tyrant is within 3 inches of the Iron Guts, you can roll a dice, and on a 1 to a 2, that wound or mortal wound is still allocated to the tyrant as normal, but on a 3 up, that wound or mortal wound is allocated to the Iron Guts instead of the tyrant. The Lead Belchers have the same move, save, bravery, wounds, and champion. There was a couple of changes. The Lead Belcher gun is now range 18, a massive increase going from 12 to 18. Big fan of this change. The rest is still the same. The Bludgeoning Blow is now range of 2. It used to only be range of 1. There was a change in the Thunderous Blast of Hot Metal. Instead of doing D6 attacks if it doesn't move, it now does 2D3 attacks. So you should consistently get more attacks out of your Lead Belchers. Your Man-Eaters have the same move, save, bravery, wounds. The Pistol and Throwing Star missile weapon is the same. The Slicer and Bashers is now range of 2. Been there, done that has changed. So if you choose Brawler, it's now a +1 to wound in melee. Formerly, it was reroll 1s to hit. Crack Shot is now giving you a range of 18 with missile weapons. That was reroll 1s with shooting. Strider and Stubborn are the same. It also gained a rule called a Barrel of Meat and the Job's Done, and you can use this command ability at the start of the hero phase. The command can only be issued by this unit, and until the end of the turn, each model in this unit counts as 3 for the purpose of contesting objectives. So essentially, you become expert conquerors. Gorges have the same move, save, and bravery. They've gained an extra wound, so they're now a wound characteristic of 6. They have had a change in their long claws, now being range of 2. Ambushing Hunters no longer has the restriction of their first movement phase, so they can still come out of the battlefield anywhere from outside of 9 inches of the enemy units. It's just that previously you had to put them in the first turn. Now you can put them down, I guess, in turn 2 or turn 3. You did lose Insatiable Hunger, which was the reroll charges, but you did gain Gruesome Devourers. And if this unit is a part of an Ogor Mawtribes unit and they are eating, enemy units within 9 inches of this unit cannot receive Inspiring Presence or the Rally command. That's hot. With the Black Powder Buccaneers, I noticed no change. So according to me, there is the same move, save, bravery, wounds, the missile and the melee profiles, the companions, the legendary looter, the minions, they all seem the same to me. The Iron Blasters have the same move, save, bravery, wounds, lethal payload, and Rhinox charge. There was a change in the Iron Blaster Cannonball. It's now range of 30, so it used to be 24. It's now gained 6 inches of shooting. It also gained an extra attack, so now it is a base profile of 2 attacks, and it does D3 plus 3 damage, so it used to be D6. So you should be getting more range, more attacks, more damage. Good news for the Iron Blaster. The Iron Blaster Hail Shot has also improved. It's now 10 attacks. It used to be only 6, and it now does 2 damage each. It used to only do 1 damage. There was also a change in the Clubber and Sharp Horn melee profile. It's now a range of 2. Formerly, it used to be range 1. The Scrap Launcher has the same move, save, bravery, wounds, the Rhinox charge, the melee weapons, all the same. There were some changes, but bear with me because they've recycled some of the names, so there'll be old versions and new versions. So the Pile of Old Scrap missile weapon is the new Deadly Rain of Scraps ability. So the attack profile is equal to the number of models in the target unit to a maximum of 20. There was a change in the pile of old scraps, so in the shooting profile, the hit and the wound profiles have switched. They are now hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s. And then finally, the old deadly rain of scraps has become an ability called the deadly loaded up. Now, at the start of the shooting phase, you can pick one friendly Noblar unit that's wholly within 9 inches of the scrap launcher and roll 2d6. If the roll is less than the number of models in the Noblar unit, you get to add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made by the pile of scraps until the end of that phase. Speaking of Noblars, they have the same moves, save, bravery, wounds, missile and melee profiles, and the champion. They did lose the Screeching Horde ability, and there was a change with trappers. It's become nasty trappers and tricks. Each time an enemy unit finishes a move within 6 inches of a friendly unit with this ability, roll a dice. On a 4-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. It used to formerly be 3 inches and mortals on 6s. So I guess it's better range and it's probably more likely to trigger. So there were plenty of warscroll changes, and it made sense that you would see points go up and go down. There were points decreases. Your Thundertusk Beastriders went down 15 points. Your Lead Belchers, your Man-Eaters, and your Stonehorn Beastriders all went down 10 points. Your Huskard on Thundertusk, your Icebrow Hunter, your Slaughtermaster all went down 5 points. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows because there was point increases too. To no surprise, the Huskard on Stonehorn becoming a priest has now seen its value go up 60 points. The Iron Blast went up 40 points. The Iron Guts went up 35 points. The Frost Sabers went up 25 points. Your Frostlord on Stonehorn, your Frostlord on Thundertusk, your Noblar Scrap Launchers, the Hrothgorn Man-Trappers, the Mournfang Pack, and your Ogre Gluttons all went up 15 points, and your Black Powder Buccaneers and the Fire Bellies both went up 5 points. Reading this book, I really felt that ogres are back in a big way, and while I don't collect either side of the ogres, I was pretty tempted and I almost pulled the trigger a few times on the start collecting box. I felt like there was a lot to like in this book. The new scary as hell Stonehorn monstrous rampage, your Huskard on Stonehorn becoming a priest, your Gulping Bites becoming an ability doing mortal wounds, Frost Sabers not being visible while in cover and getting extra wounds, your Stonehorns and your Thundertusk getting extra wounds. You've also kept a lot of the more popular customization options like Metal Cruncher, Splatter Cleaver, even regaining some of the old warscroll battalions that you used to have access to in 2nd edition like Yorbad, Urbad, Torbad, even the Junk Mob. There were a lot of interesting changes across the Lead Belchers who have range of now 18, your Iron Guts getting Ren -2 with those mighty bashing weapons, even the glow up to the Iron Blaster and the Scrap Launcher. I get the feeling the Gutbusters side of this faction may look over the fence to the Beastclaw Raiders and wish they got a little bit more, but I think there was enough changes that make the Gutbusters both interesting and competitive. You'll be winning your games with skill and not with the latest busted please nerf units. The Bloodpelt Hunter I felt was an interesting threat piece because it's not going to be visible to enemy units while it's in cover. It can move in your opponent's movement phase, and it has the potential to do some big damage to monsters. But that's enough from me because I'll be going much deeper into the faction with some experienced players in the very near future. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. But let me know in the comments section what you're thinking. Are you on Team Gutbuster? Are you on Team Beastclaw Raiders? And what are you thinking so far about the changes? Is there anything here that you like? Is there something that has been removed from the book that you think is going to significantly impact the way that you play? Are you considering the Bloodpelt Hunter? I'd be curious to hear from you what you are thinking so far. Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would love it if you press like on the video, as well as left me a comment to let me know what your thoughts are. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the video description. I want to give a massive shout out as well to the AOS Coach Patreons and YouTube members who are going in, and the funds are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you're all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a 1 on a redeploy.